Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Windup episode of our free-to-play Season 15 Hearthstone experiment. We have come to the end of Season 15. It is now July 1st, as of the date of this recording, in any event. And I want to go over the deck, and I'm going to do three things in this video. I'm going to talk about how the deck performed as far as the matchups that it faced. I am going to then talk about the synergies and combos in this deck and what I think works and what I think doesn't work. And then I'm going to give my thoughts sort of on the free-to-play experience in Hearthstone just in general. So let's start going through the stats of the deck. Let's start with the Druid matchup. The Druid matchup was a very difficult one for this deck, and it's a very good thing that we only faced 9 in the entire season of 111 games. And Druid was a trouble for this deck for one reason, and that is that Druid, especially in the current meta, is playing a ramp style. I can get to higher mana faster than you, and I can throw out bigger guys than you can deal with. And this deck, despite having very good face damage and removal, had a lot of trouble dealing with the 8/8 guys and the very value trades like Keeper of the Grove, where Keeper of the Grove typically trades 2 for 1 against our deck, that sort of thing. Very difficult matchup in that respect, and it's a very good thing, as I said, that there's not more in the meta, because this deck would be screwed if there were. Let's talk about the Hunter matchup, because this was clearly our worst matchup of all of them, and unfortunately was the second highest played in the meta for Season 15. Whether the deck was Face Hunter or whether it was Mid-Range Hunter didn't seem to matter to this Mech Shaman deck. It had tons and tons of trouble keeping a board presence, first of all, and then secondly, getting to face, what this deck, the free-to-play Shaman deck, wants to go face to get down to about 15 so that the burn spells can finish. Unfortunately, against the Hunter, that just didn't happen. And the Hunter then excels against us for the second reason, is that even if we kill their board presence, they can still come face with their hero power. 2 damage a turn. It's not long before they're taking you completely out with their hero power. They've got things like quick draw or quick shot now. They've got the traps that are setting us back. Freezing trap sets us back in tempo an amazing amount, especially when we're dealing with cards with overload. Getting one of your creatures to be 2 mana costed more is just devastating. So so we did not do very well against Hunter, and that was a big downfall of this deck. Let's make no illusions of it. The meta right now wants a deck that can beat Mage and Hunter. You can see that from the stats. That's very clear that the meta wants a deck that can beat Mage and Hunter. And our deck, while very good against Mage, which we'll discuss in a second, fell very, very, very short versus Hunters. Let's talk about the Mage matchup. And this was the saving grace of the deck, as I said several times throughout the season. The matchup against Mage was the only reason that this deck did as well as it did. 30 matchups against Mage. It was the number one we saw as far as quantity is concerned. We did very well against it. We were twice as likely to win as to lose against Mage. The reason for that I can find is that we were just a little fast for either Mech Mage, which is typically a sort of mid-speed deck, though has some control elements in it. And against Freeze Mage, we just dominated. We were just in there. As soon as we got down to 15, we burnt them. We had way more burn than any of the Mage decks did. And it was an easy matchup. I've never felt like we were behind in those matchups. And usually the ones that we lost were very, very close, squeaked out wins by the Mage in any event. Paladin, we did 50-50. Honestly, Paladin was so not memorable this season. I don't even remember the matchups that we had against Paladin. 6 matchups against Paladin out of 111 games. Paladin is not in the meta right now as far as I'm concerned. There's the Dragadin deck, which I've seen a couple times. inconsequential. Paladin is not a meta player right now. Same thing with Priest, really. Despite us having a very good win rate against them, they're just not a meta competitor. Not much to say about Priest other than the fact that their control elements cannot beat the burn that the Mech Shaman deck has. Rogue, two games. Nobody is playing Rogue in this meta right now at all, which compared to 2 seasons ago, when Oil Rogue was a thing and Miracle Rogue was a thing, or maybe 3 seasons ago with Miracle Rogue now, Rogue has fallen completely by the wayside as far as the meta is concerned. If you're designing a deck right now that can beat Rogues, don't even bother with that. They're not a concern. Shaman mirror match. Sometimes mirror, sometimes it was the mid-range deck. We didn't fare well against the mid-range deck at all, and I think the mirror matchup just goes down to who pulls the bigger burn and who has the most spell damage. So not much to say about that. Warlock. Zoo versus Zoo, our deck was bad. Versus Handlock, I devised a strategy. And we lost to Handlock early in the season, but we did do fairly well against Handlock late in the season. Zoo, it was too fast, it was too controlling for us. There was too much face damage to respond to against Zoo. That's why we had a 50-50 win rate against Warlock. Now, the biggest blowout match of them all, which was a complete surprise to me when I started playing this deck, was against Warrior, and it didn't matter in the least whether it was a control warrior or whether it was a patron warrior. This deck slays Warrior, period. You can see the win rate, 77% against Warrior. No contest there. I even had some matchups that you probably saw in the videos where I'd misplay the hell out of the game and I would still win. A lot of this, I think, no, I shouldn't say a lot. Some of it had to do with people playing Patron Warrior that didn't know how to play a Patron Warrior. So they were playing out their Warsong commanders bare onto the board. No Berserkers, no Patrons following the same turn, which is essential when you play the Patron Warrior. Lots of misplayed Patron Warriors, especially at the upper ranks. Those are the stats, guys. 53.2% win rate overall. I would have had to play about 10 times, literally 10 times as many games as I played to get to Legend with that win rate. 60% win rate is just under 300 wins to get to Legend, I believe. Or maybe it's 300 to get to 5 and then another 300 to get to Legend. I can't remember, don't really care at this point. This deck was never going there. I probably am never going there as a player. Even with our finish at rank 12, we were still in the top 15% of Hearthstone players that play on the ranked ladder. Now, those stats are probably somewhat skewed by the fact that a lot of people just play and drop themselves off at rank 20 for the card back and call it a day. But there are a very, very, very small minority of players that make Legend. I think the stat I heard was that there was 2,300 that made Legend, somewhere around there. And when you consider the amount of people that play this game, that's a very, very small number, 0.5% or something like that. A friend of mine got to rank 3 this past season, and he was pretty psyched about that, although he barely even played to begin with. At the beginning of the season, it must have just grinded it out near the end. But we finished rank 12 with some stars. I probably, if I would have grinded more, been able to get sub 10. I'm going to say probably because, I didn't make it there. I've made it there before with my paid account, but not with the free-to-play account. So enough about the stats. You can see them for yourselves. If you want a deck that's going to beat Mage and Warrior, this is the one to do it. Let's talk about the deck. Let's go through the burn suite first. So we've got 2 lightning bolts. We've got 2 crackle. We've got 2 lava burst. And in this deck, this version, I have a lightning storm. Although that's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be Lotheb. The burn suite is key. And I figured that out a little later in the season. The burn suite in this deck is the key to your wins. Your creatures are there, your minions, your whatever you want to call them. are there to get your opponent down to about 15 health. That's the only purpose. If you're finishing with creatures, something has gone a bit wrong with your deck. The burn spells are extremely important. Lava Burst, very, very powerful spell. The Overload was an issue if you're using this early, but I often found that the Lava Burst was used as a finishing type of ability. Same with the Crackle, same with the Lightning Bolt. If you're using these to control the board, your game is not going very well for you. That should be your minions' thing to do, is to control the board and to get enough face damage in to essentially burn them down. You'll see so many games, so many games in the series where I finished with burn. Part and parcel with the burn is the Azure Drake, and these spell damage cards, this and the spell damage totem, were very, very important in this deck because it boosts you from doing 10 damage to 12 damage, say, on 2 Lava Bursts. Very, very important. It helped finish face so many times. That and the spell damage totem. The card draw is a nice bonus in this deck because there isn't any other card draw. So Azure Drake was a star in this deck, just like the burn spells were. Let's talk about the other spells. Rockbiter Weapon synergizes perfectly with Doomhammer. And you pop a Rockbiter on a Doomhammer and the guy is in some serious amount of pain. You can also put it on things like, say, Cogmaster to take out a Sludge Belcher, something like that. It can be used as that little bit of surprise damage that can take out defenders or kill creatures that you might not otherwise have been able to kill. Now, what other spells do we have in here? Let's see. That is actually it for the spell suite, so let's talk about the minions. Cogmaster is a good one-drop for a mech deck, though I found sometimes he was a bit unreliable in getting the boost. So if I played him on turn 1 and then I played, say, turn 2 Mech Warper, they would just take out the Mech Warper and the Cogmaster would be a 1-2. I mean, that's to be expected with this guy. A 3-2 for 1 would be ridiculous, right? Even Flame Imp damages you for 2. And so he would be way too overpowered if it was a permanent 3-2. But sometimes he was good, sometimes he wasn't, and that's the nature of this card. It's meant to be unreliable. Annoyatron, one of the big stars of this deck because it allows you to control the early game a little bit better than, say, a non-Divine Shield Taunter. This guy usually takes not a 2 for 1 in the sense that he'll kill 2 cards, but he takes 2 actions. 2 actions to get through, and that is extremely important. Flame Tongue Totem, another fantastic card in this deck, boosting things like Whirling Zap-O-Matic up to 5 damage. Cogmaster at 5-2, like that is a scary bloody card. Definitely a keep in this deck. Mech Warper, what can I say about Mech Warper? It's a fantastic efficiency card. Synergizes with Cogmaster, with Power Mace, all the other mech ones. Definitely a great card in this deck. Zap-O-Matic was one of the... I want to say it was a star card, but on the other hand, it was very hard to get face damage with this. And because of Wind Fury, and people know how dangerous Wind Fury can be, this card gets taken out with a great amount of haste when it hits the board. And rightly so, because if you tossed a Rockbiter Weapon on a Zappo and dropped a Flame Tongue Totem beside him, that is a scary, scary card to be facing as an opponent. So he was sometimes good, but most of the time he received so much hate from the opponent that he was just killed within the turn after that he was played. If they couldn't kill him, it was a fantastic boon for our momentum, but definitely was killed a lot the turn after he was played. Power Mace. I wish I could play 5 of these guys in my deck because this is a fantastic synergizing card with the mech suite that we have in this deck. Not much to say about it. You guys saw this in action during the season. Very, very good card. I want to talk about Lightning Storm, and I want to talk about Lotheb. I would have loved to have had Lotheb in place of this Lightning Storm, but we didn't manage to grind out enough gold to buy the appropriate Nax wing that would have been there to get Lotheb, that we would have needed to get Lotheb. Lightning Storm served to me as a holy crap, it's zoo, I need to do something about this, but Lightning Storm is not a very good card in my opinion. It's unreliable in some cases. Against Patron Warrior, it's just downright dangerous, and it overloads you for 2, so if you were to play this, to try to stall the momentum of Zoo or Face Hunter, you are screwing your tempo early in the game. I hate this card, I really do. It's a terrible card. Spider Tank, what can you say about a 3/4? This guy is just a beast. When he hits the board, 4 damage to take this guy out. This is often trading 2 for 1. Very, very good card. Tinkertown Technician, 4/4 for 3 with as long as you've got the synergy, and you likely will, given this deck. Very, very good, strong card in this deck. Piloted Shredder has become like the gold standard in my mind of a creature in Hearthstone right now. This guy has a fair amount of punch. His health is reasonable enough that you need like a 2-drop to take him out minimum. Or a like Frostbolt, something that's going to cost you a couple mana. And he brings a 2-cost minion back once he dies. Now, this is really, really important for sticking your board presence. And Piloted Shredder, honestly, like, try to find a deck that's not playing this guy right now. The value is just unbelievable. Doomhammer is another fantastic card in this deck, and I probably should have crafted another Doomhammer and taken Lightning Storm out, because I didn't draw this enough, and when you did draw it, it was a very, very big tempo swing for the deck, and really, I should have taken the Lightning Storm out and put a Doomhammer in. I'm not sure why I didn't, but I had that thought about week 2, and I just never did anything about it. So that's the deck, guys. Lots and lots of synergy in here. The deck is very, very good. I'm not going to deny that it's good, but I'm not sure that it right now in the meta is a competitor because of its matchup against Hunter. Let's shift gears, talk a little bit about the free-to-play model. And we'll go back in a collection here for a second. You can see, even in Shaman, I don't really have a lot of options. I mean, we collected what we could for Shaman and crafted what we needed, but it's been a month and 2 weeks since I've been journeying on this free-to-play path, and I'm still nowhere close to having a respectable collection. I have one deck that's semi-competitive, literally just one deck that's semi-competitive. Here's the problem with free-to-play. With the expansions like GVG, there's no problem because I can, get the packs, I can craft the cards. When I need a card from that collection, I just craft it. Easy as pie. I turn my gold into packs, I turn my packs into dust. Perfect. I can craft the cards I need. We crafted all the mechs we needed, which came from GVG. We needed Lotheb though, which may have been key for this deck, I'm not sure. Could have been. And we needed to do at least 2 wings of Naxxramas to do that. That's 1,400 gold. Takes a while to grind out 1,400 gold if you haven't tried it. And the problem is the mini expansions. The mini expansions are the bane of a free-to-play player because there is no really good way to get the cards there without really grinding this game out. And you can't. I mean, if you wanted to grind out 700 gold by playing a massive amount of games, that would be great, but you can't do that in this game. Your gold progression is very, very time gated, and what I mean by that is you get 3 quests maximum. You get 1 quest per day. You completed that. That's basically all you can do aside from the 10 gold reward for every 3 wins and the occasional pack that you get from, say, Tavern Brawl in the week, which wasn't a thing for half of this season. Mini expansions are going to kill the free-to-play scene. I'll say it right now. You've got 2 out already. If I wanted to get a Blackrock Mountain card and get an Naxxramas card for this deck, I'd give up. Period. That'd be the end of it. Because you would have to go so deep into getting gold that it just would not be worth your while. You might as well go play something else. It took me a month to get a Naxxramas wing open. That's one wing. There's 5 total. If we wanted to get Face Hunter, I would be playing another 3 months before I would be able to play Face Hunter free to play. And that is the most newbie, idiotic deck that somebody can play in this game. The cards in it are not even all that rare. It's just that you have to go through Naxx to get them. Blizzard is going to have to do something about that eventually. They're going to have to allow the Naxx cards to be crafted. That's the bottom line. You can't have people gated for... Let's see, if you wanted to do Naxxramas and Black Rock Mountain as a free-to-play player, you're looking at about 9 months, 10 months to get the wings open. You think people are going to grind that much out? They're never going to do it. You need to make those craftable. Make the cards craftable. Make a price for it. Say it's going to cost you 500 gold, say, to make these cards craftable or something like that. But you're going to have to do it, Blizzard. You're going to have to do it or people will stop playing. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the free-to-play model right now, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed the free-to-play series. I know I did. I'm going to go back to my paid account now because I want to play competitive decks again. But anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching the series. Bye-bye.